realized he had actually been gone for quite a while. She got him into the car with the phone, had him play on the phone so she could use the other phone to call the police. What a blessing it was that she recognized that she was needed, that help was needed, and she stepped up and became that nice neighbor. And so if you take anything from this video, I want you to be that nice neighbor. So Ezra escaped out of the house, and we're gonna tell you what happened.
Pretty crazy. I ran upstairs and looked out the window and saw that it was open.
And no child was inside the bedroom.
And he'd thrown stuff out.
Yeah, like all of Simon's bedding was outside on the sidewalk.
I don't know if that was
I don't know if he was telling us something like he didn't want to share a room anymore, but too bad, we don't have an extra room, so you guys have to share.
We've been going to do this video for a while. It's not the first time Ezra has escaped.
Yeah, eloping is a big problem.
Yeah. This is the first time he broke out of a window.
Yeah.
This is the first time he's escaped from the house, honestly. It's pretty crazy.
So before we go into details about that crazy story, we're going to share 12 tips on eloping. If you don't know what eloping is, it's mainly wandering off or escaping. And when most people elope, especially when they're autistic, they don't necessarily have to have a place to go or a reason to leave. They could just leave. Our son Ezra loves escaping, no matter where he is. Even if where he is a safe, fun place that he likes, he doesn't necessarily want to go somewhere else. He just likes the excitement of escaping. Yeah. My first tip on eloping is to talk to your neighbors, get to know them as soon as you move in. I can't tell you how important this is. Every time we've moved, we have gone and visited neighbors if we didn't know them, and we've taken the treats and we've introduced ourselves, and I've given them my cell phone number and have them meet Ezra. Even just for a few minutes, they got a pretty good idea. He has special needs and he's nonverbal and he escapes. And all I have to do is say, hey, here's my number if you ever see Ezra without an adult around very close, to have her give me a call and to keep Ezra safe. And I think that it's way more difficult when you don't know your neighbor and your neighbor finds your child and then they don't know where the child belongs. They don't know who to call. And so this is number one thing to do. Get to know your neighbors. You don't have to become like best buddies with them, but just the fact that they know who your child is and where the child's home is, that's really important. And you'll see that this is a big deal for us, and it's been a big blessing that we've had kind neighbors. Remember, if you have an autistic child, you're in good company. The second tip is register your child with your local police station. So it depends, of course, where you live. If you live in a more rural area, then you might have to actually go to the station. A lot of the cities, though, you can just go online and post the picture of your child and the information and describe your child and what they look like and how they act and what they're able to do, if they're able to speak, if they're able to say their name or the address, or if they're not. Believe me, the police stations want you to register your child. They are not going to judge you. They're going to be impressed that you are proactively taking care of your child. And honestly, it shows them that you are a responsible parent and that you're not neglectful. So that's a good thing too. Tip number 3 is determine how long your child has been gone for and set a perimeter. This is in the moment when you first find out your child's been gone and you want to send a search party out, whether that's just your close family members or even full neighborhoods, depending on your situation and depending how long it's been gone. You go as far out as your child could have possibly gone in that 10 minutes or in that 5 minutes, and then you come in. And that's what I do, especially if I've lost them at like a park or at a mall, I've taken them out and we're at like a party at someone else's house and I realize I lost sight of my child, right? I'm like, okay, it's only been at least a couple minutes, probably 3 minutes tops. How far could my child have gone? And I go out to the outside of the house and I like go in a circle. Like, okay, he wouldn't have been able to get this far. So then I bring our search party in. This actually happened at a family reunion. We were at a really big house that my parents had rented for a few days, and there were lots of families living in this house. I thought that my son was watching Ezra. I went downstairs and he was doing something else and I was like, where's Ezra? And he said, oh, Ezra's in the other room. I've been watching him. We went to the other room, Ezra was not there. And so we had figured that he'd been gone for about a half hour, and it was a really scary moment. But I told everyone, I just started yelling. I said, we can't find Ezra, everyone try and find Ezra. And so everyone in the family just stopped what they were doing, and we all just looked for Ezra. The first thing that I did was I ran outside and I went to the perimeter of the area. I was just like, okay, I want to see if he's gotten really far away. It turned out in that situation that Ezra was just in a different room watching TV, just like sitting watching TV, just chilling. I'm like, okay, great. Another thing that happened in our neighborhood, there was an autistic child just down the road who went missing for several hours, and they posted on our Facebook group. Now, it's not the whole world that's seeing this, it's just the group, and it's our neighborhood group, and that's where I saw that. And so it was great because it was a really fast way to tell a lot of people in your local community that, hey, this child has gone missing. It's been a couple hours, this is what the child looks like. And thankfully, the police actually found him using a social media outlet that's just local. Can really be a blessing, can be a great way to send a message to a lot of people really fast. Sign 4 is be aware of the most dangerous places. For example, we have one really busy road, and it would take a while for Ezra to get there, but if he got there, that would be the most dangerous place around here that he could go. If Ezra was gone for a couple hours, then that would be one of the first places I would look, because if he was there, it would be more vital to get him out of that situation. Now, I know I'm not the only parent who's ever had an autistic child wander off and escape the house, so please put in the comments your experience with this. If you have any tips, I know that there's more than 12 out there, so we'd love to hear your stories and your tips on this subject, because this happens to a lot of people. Tip 5 is know your child's habits of where they wander. Now, if your child has never wandered off or escaped, congratulations, that's great. Keep up the good work. But you may not know where they would go on their own. So we actually did this with Ezra when he was 3 years old. We opened the gate in our backyard, and with my husband very close behind, we followed him wherever he wanted to go. He ended up going uphill. We've learned that with Ezra, he always goes uphill. Now, there's lots of hills. We live on the side of the mountain. When he has his choice, he always goes uphill. That's one thing that we learned when we followed him. We also learned that he would go where there were places where there were less things. For example, if there was a field with not much there, and then there was a forest, and then there was a road with lots of cars, he would go to the field. He would go to the place where there were less things, less buildings. So if we need to search for him, we can try and think like he would think. So that tip is to get to know your child. Tip 6 is set up alarms. This way you don't have to put locks necessarily on everything, but if there's alarms up on windows, on doors, then you know when they've been open and you can get to the situation really fast. You can even set up alarms straight to your phone, so no matter where you are, you know that a window in a certain room has been opened. A lot of people have these alarm systems for people coming in, but it's also a great way to be informed that someone is leaving the house as well. Tip 7 is set up locks. Sometimes you just have to put a lock on it. One thing to be aware of though is I know of several autistic kids that are very good at getting through locks. As soon as you put a lock on something, it's almost like a dare for them to figure out how to take it apart. So be aware of that as well. Some locks don't keep autistic kids in. Tip 8 is something that we use, and it's really important to us. It really helps us get a good night's rest, and that is a safety bed. It's a bed that Ezra can't escape out of. It's actually a hospital grade bed. It's made for adults. He can't tip it over. He can't escape out of it, no matter how hard he tries. And what's great is that everything inside is padded. Now, most autistic people will not need a safety bed. A lot of times it's too restrictive because what if they need to use the bathroom in the middle of the night or something and then they can't get out? But for Ezra right now, he's not yet potty trained, so we're not too concerned about that right now. I am so grateful that I can get a better sleep at night knowing that Ezra can't escape and get into danger. I want him to be safe at night. And on the plus side, he does sleep a lot better when he's in a safety bed. And that brings us to tip number 9, schedules and sleep. People might not actually think that this makes a big difference, but it can, especially with children who are on the spectrum. They usually thrive with schedules, especially when they have a good sleep schedule. Sleep is tough, it's really hard, so don't be too hard on yourself as a parent, as a caregiver of a child who's autistic. When it comes to sleep, there's ups and downs. Sometimes we have to use a little bit of medicine to get Ezra to go to sleep, but most of the time he can sleep by himself, especially since we got him his safety bed. He knows he can't get out, and so he gets up and falls asleep. So having a sleep schedule that your child recognizes and knows, it does help them not wander and escape as much. Tip 10 is GPS tags, or putting information on the child somehow. There's many ways to do this. It just depends on what your child is okay with. If they like wearing a little bracelet and it doesn't bother them, or an anklet, then you can do something like that and put their contact information, put your phone number, your address. You can put on contact information on clothes as well, especially if you're going somewhere, like traveling. You can put tags on clothes that have information on there. If Ezra would let us put a GPS tag on his shirt, or on his belt, or on his shoe or something, if that didn't bother him, and he would let us do that, we would do that in a heartbeat, because that would be awesome. I just would look at my phone, oh, there he is, and we find him really quickly. I would love that. But as of right now, he does not wear any jewelry and will not let us put GPS tags on things. It would bug him too much. He would rip it off. He would be obsessed with it and rip it off. Tip 11 is knowing your child's triggers. So a trigger would be something that would allure them away from you. For example, if you were on a trip and there was a body of water and you knew that, oh, that shining water with that lake or that pool or whatever would attract your child, then be aware and be extra vigilant in that moment to make sure that they don't wander off and go into the water, if you don't want them to. Another trigger too could be maybe if you're in a place where there's a lot of bright lights, a lot of loud noises, they just want to get away from that. Maybe they're uncomfortable because of all the sensory overload that they're experiencing, which is totally understandable. Maybe you can help them get out of it. Maybe you can help them adapt to the situation by putting on like headphones. We've got some headphones for Ezra. He will wear them sometimes when he's highly motivated, but we have to be right there with him, because he'll also take them off and throw them and try and tear them apart. So I just want to put these tips out there, because they're not going to work for everyone, but they might help someone. But please just be aware of your child's triggers. I know this one child who has a trigger of repetitive noises, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be loud noises, but it's the same noise again and again and again. So they really, really hate when trucks back up, because it makes that beep, beep, beep. And so the parents know that if that type of a sound happens, their child's going to want to try and get away, want to escape the situation. And they're aware of this trigger, and it helps a lot, because then they know, okay, we need to help our child get away from the situation. They're going to try and escape. This last tip, tip 12, is a little tricky one, because it doesn't necessarily involve you as the caregiver necessarily, but it's you helping other people create safe spaces for your child. For example, if your neighborhood has an HOA, then you can go to an HOA meeting and bring up the fact that you have a special needs child, and just remind people, hey, by law, you need to have a fence around a big trampoline. By law, you need to have a fence around a pool. And you can remind your neighborhood, hey, this is important, especially because I have a special needs child. By doing that, you can help lower the risk of having dangerous things around the neighborhood where your child might escape. This is tricky because a lot of times you don't have a say in what the environment is like wherever you are, where your child might escape to. Obviously, you can't tell people to not drive on the road. They need to drive on the road, even though that makes a dangerous road. But you might want to say, hey, in our neighborhood, should we build up a fence around the road? Are other parents concerned? One time we had some people over and they have an autistic child, and we were just talking and discussing things, and then all of a sudden we looked up and said, wait, where's so-and-so? He's autistic and nonverbal, and at that time he was about 10 years old, and we realized he had actually been gone for quite a while. And so we sent like a search party out for him, and we called the police, and thankfully the police actually had found him. And what had happened was he had escaped to a very busy road, and thankfully a woman in a car saw him and just recognized, okay, Simon, do you need help? Hey, you want to help me make this movie? Come here. Do you want to sit on his lap? Okay. And this woman went to the side of the road, and she got him into the car with the phone, had him play on the phone so she could use the other phone to call the police, and the police got him, and then they brought him back and he was able to be safe. And it was, I mean, honestly, it was a nightmare. It was just super scary. I am so grateful for that lady who recognized the situation. She took her time to take care of this child. I mean, that wasn't her responsibility. She shouldn't have had to do that. I'm sure she had a place to go. I'm sure she was late. But what a blessing it was that she recognized that she was needed, that help was needed, and she stepped up and became that nice neighbor. And so if you take anything from this video, I want you to be that nice neighbor. You're not ever gonna escape from mommy, right? You're gonna stay close. Yeah, and with that being said, some autistic children don't have problems with wandering or escaping like this one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay, so we really hope that helps. We've used a lot of those things, if not all of them, that have really helped. This is the story. I was actually at a church dinner that I was in charge of, so I was like working at that, and I finally sat down to eat, and I get this call from my next door neighbor, and I was like, oh, I wonder what's going on. And I say, hey, what's up? And she says, so I've got Ezra here. And I was just like, it took a second for me to process what that meant. I was like, you have Ezra there. It's like, oh, Ezra escaped out of the house, and the people who were supposed to be watching him at the house didn't know that he was gone. And I was like, okay, thanks for letting me know. Can you grab him? Can you hold him? Thankfully, she was out and about in the front yard because she saw him. And then I called Adam, and I was pretty mad. I wasn't very nice. I was like, do you know where Ezra is?
I don't know, yeah, he was just left for just a little bit.
Just a little while in his room.
Because it was just a minute, and he broke out, threw out Simon's bedding, jumped out the window, and was on his way out.
Yeah.
And thankfully the neighbor caught him, and
she's really close to us. I mean, these houses are really close together, so we didn't get far. It was probably like a minute maybe total.
Yeah.
Because just for the time to take him to get out of the window and then go up the hill.
So yeah, these tips that Holly shared are important. But
they really saved us and saved Ezra. They're
several times, yeah.
Very tactical and simple things you can do that really help. So if you haven't seen this video here about what causes autism, check that out. And we have a playlist right here, Does My Child Have Autism?